Hello everyone, I'm Colin Canet. Today I'm going to be remaking the jig that I use on my router table for making box joints. It's pretty interesting, some of the things that I've come up with, so let's have a look. Now the problem with this jig that I made several years ago, I didn't use the best material. I used what I had on hand, and you can see if you look closely here, so the MDF is cracked here. It's just some of the wood has swollen, so the carriage is much tighter now. So I'm going to rebuild it, and I'm going to take more time and use a little bit better quality materials because I love the way that you can make box joint jigs. Very clean cuts when you use a router, and I don't know anybody else who's ever adapted it to a router, so it's really the perfect way of using this. So before we get started, let's have a quick look at what a box joint is. And you can see that here's an example that I've made, and all of the parts are all square and they all interlock together. That is a box joint. I see many people on YouTube calling these finger joints. This is not a finger joint. This is a finger joint. You see the difference? Finger joints are long, narrow pieces that fit together. Box joints are square parts that interlock together. To save us time today, I have pre-cut all of the material, and if you look at what I'm using, I'm actually using some double-sided oak. It's offcuts, it's scrap, and it doesn't all match, but it doesn't matter, but it's all double-sided oak, and you can see by the number of plies in there, it's really good quality plywood. So there's some things that I'm going to do as I go along, and that's what I'm going to show you is some of the detail of what I'm doing to make this a better build. The first thing I'm going to work on is this part here that the carriage rides on, and what I'm going to do, instead of leaving this all rough, I'm going to use plywood, and this time I'm going to put some an oak strip on top of it. So there's that strip of wood, and I've already laid a bead of glue on there, and I'm just going to use my finger to move that glue into the plywood. I want it to sink in, and then I'm going to let it sit for about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, that glue is dry on there, so I'm going to put another thin layer on, and I'm going to put another thin layer on the wood that I'm going to fasten to it. The next thing I want to do while that glue is drying is I'm going to drill all of my holes, so the two sides of the carriage, and you can see that all of these, the bar goes all the way through, so if I drill all of these holes at exactly the same time, I can get them to all align up. So I'm just going to go over to the drill press. There we go. Now I'll just cut that off with my oscillating tool, straighten that little edge up there, and we'll check for the fit. I'm not going to use screws like I did last time. I think this time I'm going to use my doweling tool so that I don't split the plywood and so that it's nice and strong and most of all accurate. So there's the pieces that I'm going to be gluing all on. Now once I get the first hole drilled, the rest will be easy because I can just align with the doweling jig. There, that'll fasten that. Now before I go any further, I want to do a little bit of a dry fit here. Make sure everything aligns the way it should. It's good. Now, what I really need to make sure happens here is that this fits in here and slides. Now there's a little bit of a gap in there. And you can see that. And that's what I wanted in there. Look at that. That's perfect. That's excellent. Okay, I have the base here, and I'm going to prepare the base first of all. And all that really entails is attaching the miter blank, and you can see it underneath there, to the base. And I don't want to put the superstructure on until I do this. Okay, quickly, let me bring you up to speed here as to what I've done. So you can see that I fastened the base. I've put the hanger bolts on. I've got myself a new front for the carriage, and I've actually got 4 hanger bolts on there, not 2. The last thing I need to do is to adjust the carriage so that I make sure that it's absolutely 90 degrees to the base, and I'll have to do that in a couple of positions here. Okay, I finished the jig, and I've in fact done a quick test. I'll show you that in a second. But I've made some minor modifications here, and it just makes a huge difference. Now, this thing here, all this is a piece of veneer, and I used some CA glue and some accelerator just to glue a bar on here. And look at what I can do with this. Okay, you're looking inside the jig right now, and there's that little piece of veneer with the wood handle on it, and this is where my wood is going to sit. So what I can do is if I put that in and butt it up to this side and the back, now when I put the wood in that I'm going to cut box joints in, I just lay that in like that. And in this case I need a little bit of a spacer just because the wood's a little thin, and I'm going to raise it up a little bit. But now that wood down there is sitting on the veneer. And what that means is when I start moving this carriage back and forth, there's no way that that wood is going to be able to catch on the slot in the bottom because it's actually lifted up off the deck here. Now I can just slide that out like that. And now if you could look underneath there, you can see that all this wood is just slightly above the deck in here. Now, as I said earlier here, I've already tested out this jig, and it, of course, is working fine. But here you can see where the offset makes a difference. See, there's a cutoff in the top of these. And this one is, and this set here is on the top. And I've actually done that on both sides. So the tops of the longer ones are cut off at each end, and the shorter ones, they actually have a tab there. So when you put this all together, the nice part is that they sort of match if you want to do that. It doesn't, you can make these any way you want. There's all sorts of different combinations that you can use. But there's my quick little box joint. And of course, obviously it's not glued up because you just put it together. But that's how quick and easy that is. So let's go ahead. I'm not going to show you the entire cut here. The carriage is working so smoothly. I'm really happy with all the modifications that I've done to it. But we'll cut through and I'll speed it up. But we'll just show you some of the cuts that I'm going to make on this. Okay, so I've just put those 2 in, and I've offset them exactly the same way as I did the first ones, and pull my marker stick out and my lift from the bottom, and I'm all ready to go. And here you can see I have set up a stop on the front so that I don't waste my effort going back and forth. And I also have another one on the back, so it just makes things a little bit quicker and easier. So doing here. Now, if you're using wet wood, you might find that the wood, by the time you start trying to put the ends together, that the ends close in. They try and grab one another. And the quick fix for that is to use a 1/4-inch file and just take a little bit, just run it through each of the slots there, and that will fix that up for you. Now you can see that both sides of these I've got tabs on both the top and the bottom, and on none on this side. So it doesn't matter how you put it together, it's always going to come together with the same look. Chips in there still. There we go. And there it is. That's it. All ready for gluing. And what really makes this stand out is when you put some finish on these, and of course the end grain absorbs that much more finish or dye or stain, so they really stand out. You can really see them. So there you go. That's using the box joint jig on the router. Well, that concludes my video for today, and you can see with a little bit of finish on there how those box joints just come to life. I'm Colin Canet for WoodWorkWeb. Thanks for watching.